Hey guys, and welcome to the Board Game BBQ. Thank you for joining me. I want to introduce you to a game called Flick of Faith by Awaken Realms. It's a dexterity area control game for 2 to 4 players, and I want to talk about the new expansion that has just come out called Cataclysm that adds a 5th player and a bunch of other modules. We are board gods, and what other thing to do than a board god is to flick your profits around to spread your word around the country and make sure everyone's heard about you. We're going to do this by flicking little discs around the board, and we're going to be introducing new crazy laws, changing the game up a lot, and just mixing it up and messing with each other a hell of a lot. And we're going to go to the table to see how the main game plays. After I show you how the main game sort of works and give you a bit of a rundown, I'm going to go over the Cataclysm Expansion and explain to you exactly what that brings to the game. Okay, so here we have the nice neoprene mat that the game comes with, which is really lovely, nice and easy to pack up and move around. And here are some of the tokens that you have in the game. Typically, you're going to probably start with about 5 prophets, and you're going to have a few temples. Not all of them are in the picture right now. So these nice big chunky pieces are your temples, and these are your prophets, and these are going to be the main pieces you play with most of the game. Before we start the game, we're going to get dealt a god. There's 4 different gods to choose from in the base game, and they are both double-sided. So technically you have 8 different gods to choose from. Each one has a bunch of different abilities they can do and different sort of rule-breaking techniques. One of my favorite is actually this one over here that incorporates a nice big thick piece of the game instead of one of your prophets, making it easy to, push through all your enemies. It's quite fun. But let's not go into these too deeply right now because we're just going to do a light run through. Once you've chosen your god, we're going to move over to the first phase called the council phase. In the council phase, we have a deck of lore cards. We're going to shuffle this and draw 2 lore cards. Now, these lore cards have abilities that will either go for the entire game or go for the current phase. What we're going to do is actually all vote at once by doing a thumbs up or a thumbs down, which one we want. So we might say the King Ape is going to be a thumbs up, and the all hands meeting is going to be a thumbs down. Obviously, we'll read them all first. We'll do a vote. If we can't make a decision by having a vote in majority, we give them a little bit of a shuffle and pick one at random to play. Once we've chosen the rule, we do any changes on the board that need to happen to make the rule work for us, put it to the side, and then going around the table, we start flicking. We put one of our pieces onto our cloud in our corner and flick the piece onto the board. Now, just to let you know, touching the line will be considered to be on an island. If we're off the line in the ocean, then we are no longer on the island. There's a few places you can land. On the island, which sort of adds presence onto an island and gets you dominance, we can land on a city. Now, if we land on a city, in and around the city, we will replace this piece with a actual city. That's these cities here, these nice big chunky pieces which touched on earlier. And you can place that anywhere you like around the city. That's going to be an obstacle for your enemies to get through, and even better, it provides presence. Now, what do I mean by presence? Once we finish flicking all our pieces, we're going to have a bunch of pieces all over the board, which might look something along the lines of this. Let's set these up as an example. So first of all, you're going to get a point for each island you're present on. So if we're scoring for yellow, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 3 islands that we're present on. These 2 islands have dominance for yellow because yellow is the only prophet visible on this island here. And there are 3 presence over here and 2 for green. So yellow has majority presence on both these islands. That gives you an additional 2 points per island. So all up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points in one round for yellow. Whereas green only has dominance on 1 island and presence on 2. That'll be 4 points in total. Just to give you a little overview how the scoring works in this game. The other thing you can do, if we're mid-game, if you're able to flick your piece and hit the navel, that piece will come off and score you a point. And you'll immediately look around to see how many islands you have presence on. 1, 2, 3. You'll actually score 4 points this round, mid-round, for scoring on the navel. So you'll get your points, which are over here. That's your 4 points. Put them aside, and you're ready to go. This is going to happen 4 times in a 4-player game, or 3 times in a 3-player game. That we go all around, everyone has a turn at flicking, and once all our pieces on the board is once we actually score in the worship phase. Something to keep in mind, and is really good in the game as well, is that all of your cities remain on all of the islands unless they're completely flicked off, or unless a rule on a lore card says to remove your city. Let's maybe talk about some of these lore cards so I can give you an idea how they change the game up a little bit. Something like Blind Obedience. Well, during the current mission phase, players will flick their prophets with their eyes closed. That gets a bit crazy and a bit wild, but it's something different to do in the game that adds a bit of fun. They see me rolling. In this one, you're actually going to put your pieces to their side and hold them up and then flick them. It means that things are going to get a bit crazy and make it a bit more difficult to sort of plan where you're going, but that's half the fun in it. What else do we have? If we look at Local Cult, until the end of the game, players do not get victory points for the island closest to their player's corner. So the island close to you is not scoreable for you, so you want to make sure you send your prophets out to the further islands. So that's just a few of those cards to give you an idea what they do for you in the game. Okay, so that was a quick rundown of what the base game sort of gives you. Now let's go over the Cataclysm Expansion and explain the different modules that it offers. So, if we look at the table here, one of the first things that the game gives you is a whole heap of new lore cards. So you can shuffle these into the main deck and use them in every single game, and they just add a bunch of extra options. They're nice and handy to have, and they just give you a bit more flavor for the game. The main thing that the game offers is a 5th player expansion. So the 5th player are these red tokens that you can see over here. And they give you 2 new gods. I'm going to give this a try. We have Itzamna and Ishel. So these 2 gods have new abilities as well, adding a bit of a mix to the game. One of the really cool abilities that the game offers is this piece here that comes with Itzamna. So with this piece here, the player who is this character will get to put their piece, well, let's get a red piece that's a bit more suitable, get that red piece and use this as a bit of a aiming guide, meaning you can try to shoot a bit straighter in the game, and don't worry, it's not uneven because the other guides have some cool pieces that help them as well, which we haven't gone over just yet. So that's what that guy gets, and there's an ability as well on the other side that Ishal, for if you have more characters off the board in the reserve pool by maybe building cities or having them knocked off the board, you actually get 4 points if you have the most profits in the reserve pool at the end of the round. So you can get a bit of a different strategy there and play the game a bit of a different way. So that's the 5th player expansion. So another module that this game has in the expansion is the Mystics expansion module. So in the Mystics expansion, each player is going to get a couple of Mystics as well. And the game actually comes with 2 Mystic tokens for each other color player. And each player is going to get dealt a Mystic card. Now this Mystic card gives you a special ability that nobody else has that makes the game a bit more asymmetric. So for example, we've got this card here called the Plug Finder. So the Plug Finder, if your Mystic scores on the navel, score it twice. So if you can flick this actual piece onto that navel piece we spoke about earlier, it's going to give you a double score on that one. Or the Elder, when you build a temple with a Mystic, put that Mystic on that temple instead of to the reserve pool. Bit different, but you're still going to be having a presence on the island. So there's many of these cards and give you plenty of options to change the game up a little bit. So the next module of this expansion is called the Cataclysm Expansion. So it actually adds an extra step to your round process just before you score, called the Cataclysm Round. How it works is the person who has a prophet closest to the navel in the center of the board gets to pick one of these Cataclysm cards. There will be 3 out, and they get to pick one and put it into play. And these just mix the game up a lot as well, add a lot more uncertainty and change up the game. They do things like making all players flip over their god power and play as the other god for the rest of the game. Or they may do something like adding hail tokens, where you can drop these onto the board randomly, and players then have to avoid hitting those tokens for the rest of the game. So they add just a level of being mean to each other. You know, you use it to mess with each other, and the thing is, you do it just before you score, so you have a chance to look at the board state and see who you can really mess over the most. So that's a bit of fun too. And you have a bunch of tokens that add to that sort of that round as well. So it adds a bunch more pieces that you can use depending which of these Cataclysm cards that you choose. The game also comes with some new stickers for your new tokens, and some replacements just in case any get damaged or lost in the process. It comes with some extra coins, some other bits and pieces that have to do with your lore cards, especially this one over here, which is my favorite. This is a ramp, so you can actually use it to get some height over the board and jump some other pieces if you want to sort of avoid them. And that does it. That's all your different modes that the Cataclysm expansion offers. The book actually also has a tournament mode. So if you do want to have a tournament, it actually explains how you can do that as well. This is a really fun game. The 5th player adds just a different spice to the game if you wanted to have more players sitting down enjoying this flicking game. It's a great game. It takes about 20 minutes. So it's a really good game to sort of start a game day with, or maybe finish one, or play in between your bigger games. It's just a really good palate cleanser, gives you lots of laughs, and it's just a really great time. So I definitely recommend that you try Flick of Faith and the expansion Cataclysm. Thank you very much. Hope your next game is a sizzling one.